Welcome to our monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. And as is our custom at this time, I'd like to introduce to the audience Officer Carroll, if you please come forward. Officer Carroll is here representing all our first responders today. I'd like everybody to keep in mind that today is the anniversary of 9/11. It was devastating what happened years ago, and it's still devastating today. So with that said, I'll ask us to all please stand, and Officer Ott will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Carol.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Carroll. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is the monthly meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. Let me give you a little insight on how we're going to conduct the meeting today. The first thing that we're going to concern ourselves is the consent agenda. These are applications that not only this board has reviewed, but our professional and our engineering staff have reviewed. To our knowledge, there's no known opposition to any of these particular cases. So as we read them into the record, Mr. Peterson will read those in, and as he does, the applicant, he or she, as her name is called, you'll raise your hand and identify yourself. Likewise, if we have anybody here in opposition to any of these particular cases, Again, if they would recognize themselves by raising their hand as being in opposition, and if we do have anybody in opposition to any of these particular cases, we will pull that case and hear it in its regular numeric order. Once we complete that, we have one case on the irregular agenda. I will charge the audience as we get to that at that time. So, John, do you have any special announcements you'd like to make now?
I do have one announcement, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phone. The ringing does interfere with broadcast and presentations, so please turn the volume off on your cell phones. And with
Right.
that, Mr. Chairman, we're ready to start the consent
Well,
agenda.
let's just jump right in.
Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for September 11th, 2019. First case is a variance case of V74, Billy Joe Lopez Molina, request a variance to reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the north property line, which is existing. Number 2, to reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 30 feet, which is existing. 3, to reduce the front setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 450 square foot shed, number 1, from required 35 feet to 17 feet. Number 4, reduce the major side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 450 square foot shed, number 1, from required 25 feet to 7 feet. To allow, number 5, to allow an accessory structures, or to allow 2 accessory structures, which are shed number 1 and shed number 2, to be located in front of the principal structure and/or closer to the right-of-way, the side street right-of-way line than the principal structure. And number 6, to allow access and/or parking on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is gravel, in land lot 157 of the 16th District. The property is located on the north and west side of Fowler Circle, east of Canton Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments and subject to development inspections comments. Is the applicant here? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V74? Let the record show no one opposed. Variance case of V75, Mark Rivers requests a variance to 1, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for a proposed approximately 774 square foot shop from 100 feet to 10 feet adjacent to the rear property line and from 100 feet to 10 feet adjacent to the south property line. And number 2, allow parking and maneuvering on a non-hardened treated surface in land lot 70 of the 20th District. The property is located on the west side of Ragsdale Road, north of Ackworth Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V75? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V76, Jacob R. Johnson and Stephanie A. Johnson request a variance to 1, allow an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 288 square foot proposed storage shed to the side of the principal building, and 2, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 288 square foot proposed storage shed for required 35 feet to 23 feet in land lot 1040 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of High Green Court, north of High Green Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments and subject to sewer comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V76? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V77, Stephen Gould requests a variance to 1, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 9 feet adjacent to the north property line, which is existing. 2, reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 159 square foot shed from required 10 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the north property line, which is existing. And 3, reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an approximately 1,489 square foot above ground pool and deck from 100 feet from the rear to 26 feet and from 100 feet from the sides to 26 feet adjacent to the north property line and the 15 feet adjacent to the south property line. And those are existing in land lot 301 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Hadley Farm Drive, north of Old Farm Walk. Staff recommends approval, subject to development inspections comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case of V77? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V78, Cheryl Davis requests a variance to, 1, allow 3 electrical meters on 1 single-family residential lot, and 2, allow an accessory structure, a proposed approximately 1,008 square foot detached garage to be to the side of the principal building, in land lot 31 of the 16th district. The property is accessed from the northern terminus of Township Trace, north of Jefferson Township Parkway. Staff recommends approval. Is there anyone here opposed? Is the applicant here for V78? Let the record show the applicant is here, and there's no one opposed. Variance case V79, Charles D. Jenkins requests a variance to reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 28 feet in land lot 840 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Brookcliff Drive, north of Brookcliff Landing. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to the variance case of V79? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V80, Champion Window requests a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 20 feet to 17 feet in land lot 142 of the 19th district. The property is located at the southern terminus of Springs Crest Drive, south of Poplar Springs Road. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V80? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V82, Jonathan L. Fowler and Carrie A. Fowler request a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 39.8% in land lot 180 of the 16th district. The property is located on the south side of Mystique Landing, east of Mabry Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V82? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V83, Lance Cooper and Sonia Cooper request a variance to, 1, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for a proposed 4,500 square foot home gym from required 100 feet to 11.5 feet. And 2, to allow an accessory structure, a proposed 4,500 square foot home gym to be located in front of the principal building in land lots 280 and 281 of the 19th district. The property is located on the south side of Bullard Road, west of Villa Rica Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Purchaser, number 1, purchaser of home to build the proposed gym where shown on the submitted site plan, which is dated July 10, 2019, with exterior finishes that are architecturally consistent with those of the existing and remaining horse barn. Number 2, the horse barn is not to be used for a human dwelling place. And number 3, a 20-foot evergreen screening planting area with Nellie R. Stevens holly, cryptomeria, or similar large evergreen screening plant material, 15-gallon minimum size containers, 5 to 6 feet high at installation, planted no greater than 10-foot centers, is to be installed along or near the existing wood rail fence line behind the planned gym, with the beginning point of such buffer to be directly below the corner of the gym that is nearest to the fence, as per the variance request plat filed as part of the application, with the buffer to proceed along the fence toward the existing Cooper residence. The applicant's representative is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V83? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V84, U-Haul, request a variance to allow 2 accessory structures, a propane tank structure and a canopy to be to the side of the principal building and closer to the side street right-of-way line than the principal building in land lot 564 and 565 of the 16th district. The property is located on the east side of Canton Road and on the south side of Piedmont Road, north of Chesterfield Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to development inspections comments, fire department comments, and enclosed tank compound with a chain link fence. Is the applicant present? Is the applicant here for V84? Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V84?
Okay, as our procedure, let's try to, Madam Secretary, see if we can contact these folks. See if we can call, if we can get them here before our business is complete today, we'll handle their case. If not, we'll have to do something with it towards the end of this meeting, okay? V84 we'll pull and deal with later.
Okay,
All right, John, 85, I guess.
thank you. Variance case V85, Wesley Allen Anderson requests a variance to 1, reduce the setback for a pool and concrete patio from required 5 feet to 3 feet adjacent to the east property line. 2, reduce the side setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 384 square foot frame shed with overhang from required 10 feet to 2 feet adjacent to the east property line. 3, reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure under 650 square feet for an approximately 384 square foot frame shed with overhang from required 35 feet to 12 feet. And to reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for an approximately 700 square foot metal awning from required 100 feet to 34 feet from the rear, from required 100 feet to 65 feet adjacent to the east property line, and from required 100 feet to 37 feet adjacent to the west property line in land lot 293 of the 20th District. The property is located on the south side of Middle Court, south of Stonehenge Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to development inspection comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V85? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V86, 3333 Riverwood, request a variance to 1, reduce the required distance for a freestanding sign from 62 feet from center line and 1 foot off the right-of-way to 50 feet from center line. Number 2, to allow the official street number to exceed the 1 foot in height and width and to be counted as sign area. 3, allow 3 freestanding signs on 336.42 feet of public road frontage on one road. Number 4, allow 3 freestanding signs to be less than 150 feet from all other freestanding signs on the same lot. Number 5, allow the required sign area on a 2-acre lot to be increased from 120 square feet to 130.5 square feet. And 6, allow the required structure area on a 2-acre lot from 300 square feet to increase to 769 square feet in land lot 978 of the 17th District. The property is located on the west side of Riverwood Parkway, north of Cumberland Parkway, and on the south side of south of Cobb Parkway. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following comments. Traffic comments and sewer department to approve the final sign location. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V86? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V87, Charlotte McClelland requests a variance to 1, reduce the side setback from required 10 feet to 3 feet adjacent to the east property line, and 2, to reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 28 feet in land lots 51 and 94 of the 17th District. The property is located at the northern terminus of Riverbend Circle, east of Mill Creek Trail. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Development inspections, comments, and stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V87? Let the record show there's no one opposed. And lastly, let's see here, variance case V88, John Nally and Catherine Nally request a variance to increase the maximum allowable impervious surface from 35% to 39.87% in land lots 903 and 904 of the 17th District. The property is located on the south side of Baker's Farm Road, east of Woodland Brook Drive. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments, stormwater management comments, and sewer comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V88? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and board.
All right, it's back to this board for any comments, discussions. Fred has a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the consent agenda, item number V85, Wesley Allen Anderson, I met with the applicant, and there is a condition that is not of his doing, where his neighbor has basically a row of Leland cypress, some of which had died. So I asked, and he agreed to plant basically a row of something in front of them. And since I have such wonderful verbiage from landscape architect David Meyer on V83, I'll just steal it. So my motion will be to amend and add one further condition: an evergreen screen planting with either Nellie R. Stevens, holly, cryptomeria, or similar large evergreen screening plant material, 5 to 6 feet high at installation, planted no greater than 10 feet on centers. So I'll steal that language and add that here in front of the dead Leland cypress, so we have that visual barrier maintained. And that's all I have, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman. I'd ask that be an amendment.
Just amendment to the 85. Any other comments from board members? Hearing and not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion for approval or disapproval or whatever. Ms. Williams?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the
Except for
exception
V84.
84. And then I have a question about that.
Okay. All right, I've got a motion, got a second?
I'll
Bill?
second.
Second, Monique. Let's call for the vote. All in favor, signify or vote against it. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Secretary, we're going to approve that consent agenda with the exception of V84 with a 5-0 vote. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that were lucky enough to be on the consent agenda, your business is complete with us for today. You're welcome to stay. If you leave, I'd ask you to leave quietly, and we'll continue on with our business. So we'll give them a couple of seconds. Madam Secretary, were you able to contact the folks at 84? You were not, okay? Ms. Williams, we'll wait till the very end to discuss that then.
Yeah, because I have a question. If they're not there, we can't act on it?
We can act on it if you want to accept it.
Because I really do. I mean, it's in a commercial. We all know where it's at. I don't have a problem with going ahead and approve it.
Yeah, and with this particular case, the sign was posted. The prominent civic group from this area was aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was none of the neighbors that opposed it.
There's actually no
Well-
residential that's close to it, so.
The precedent we've had, if you accept it, then we can go ahead and vote on it.
Because I won't be here for October, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion.
Go ahead, do that right now.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion
V84.
that on V84 that we approve it as presented.
Got a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Monique, okay, a motion is second. Let's call for the vote. There we go. And we're going to approve V84. And that's our procedure. And thank you, Ms. Williams, for doing that. I'm sure the U-Haul people are going to be delighted.
I hope so.
In your next move, you
That's
might get a
right.
trailer.
I'll
You
get a
never know.
free trailer in my next move.
Or they'll throw you out. Okay, let me bring us all back together, ladies and gentlemen. We are at our regular consent agenda now. And let me explain, there's only one person on that, for that particular application, it's V81, Mr. Buff. Let me just explain the process. What we're going to do is we're going to swear you in, we're going to bring you up. Ms. Bates is our officer of the day. She will swear you in. For those of you that are going to give testimony either for or against, for V81, Ms. Bates will swear you in. All testimony will be given to the podium to my right. At that time, the applicant, he or she, will have a 10-minute period to make their presence and to tell us what they want. They'll have a 10-minute period to do that. Likewise, if there's anybody here in opposition, they will also have a 10-minute period. With that said, John, let's read the case.
Yes, sir. Variance case of V81, Dwayne Buff requests a variance to 1, reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 17 feet, which is existing. Number 2, to reduce the rear setback from required 30 feet to 1 foot, which is existing. Number 3, to increase the maximum allowed impervious surface from 35% to 56.5%. Number 4, to reduce the required setbacks for an accessory structure over 650 square feet for a proposed 1,200 square foot garage, required 100 feet to 85 feet from the rear, from 100 feet to 24 feet from the front, and from 100 feet to 1 foot adjacent to the east property line. And number 5, allow an accessory structure, the proposed 1,200 square foot garage, to be located to the side or in front of the principal building in land lot 233 of the 17th District. Property is located on the east side of Overbrook Drive, west of Gray Road. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V81? Got four. Let the record show there's four people here opposed. All those wishing to address the board, please come forward to be sworn in.
All right, all you folks, come on forward. We'll get you all sworn in. We'll just take your time. Ms. Bates, have those folks that are there have them sit on that front row. They don't have to go back and forth.
All right.
All right, let me get everybody settled first.
Now, this is not the
Wait,
latest
just
proposal.
hold on 1 second. Let me get everybody settled before we get started.
All right.
Okay, sir, for the purpose of the record, if you would, please give us your name, please, first.
It's Dwayne Buff.
Okay, Mr. Buff, you may start. Tell us what you want.
Yeah, I had actually changed this proposal a while back, and then I talked with the gentleman Monday, and he has a digital copy, and he was supposed to update all the files. I talked to Monique about it too, when she came Saturday, and this is different. If you look at the way my property is
Okay,
like
tell you what to do. Give that to the gentleman next to you. Let him put it up on a screen. And then you can explain to us what the difference is or what your problem is with this particular thing. But I'm going to get it up on a screen how everybody understands. And we'll give you a microphone and a pointer, and you could tell us what the problems are or is that, whatever you want to tell us.
Sure.
We'll just give you the microphone and the pointer, and then you can determine what you want to tell us.
All right. So if you look at the property here, there's a 10 and a half feet off of here. Originally, this was set back further.
Okay.
And I moved the garage up forward, so it's actually level with where the parking area is here and for the old driveway. So I moved it up, which actually lowered the impervious surface by 2%.
Okay, I tell you what, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tell us exactly, you want to tell us everything that you want to do before you get into the details of this?
What
or
I
you wanna
wanna
go
do-
right to the details.
What I wanted to do, I started to pour this driveway here so that I could have a U-shaped driveway
Okay.
to have my vehicles where I can display them and do it. And I was gonna put a parking pad here to put a pavilion and later close it in. When I poured this section, I was doing it in sections and stages. When I poured this section, somebody had called the county on me and said I had exceeded the maximum impervious surface. So I proceeded to try to rectify that. I applied for a variance permit to do this driveway all the way across here. You see where it's proposed to go across? And I had originally put a parking pad here, but when I talked with one of the people from zoning, they said just put it all in. If you're gonna try to put a garage in, just put that in with the variance application that you're gonna do a garage. And when I did that, I had to do it in a hurry, get a survey and get everybody to put that on the paper. Well, it showed it 1 foot off back here on the property line, and that you couldn't even hardly walk past 1 foot. So I moved the whole structure forward. It's still attached to the house. I moved the whole structure forward, which gave me 10 and a half feet. And for some reason, when I talked to the gentleman Monday, they're using this sideline as my back property line. This is the front of the house, and this is the road. So if you look at the zoning, this is a sideline, the side property line, so the 10 foot should apply here. I'm well within the zoning for 10 foot off the side of the property here when I move that structure forward. So all I'm trying to do today is to get this driveway finished and to get this structure approved, and that's what I'm here for.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us? You have a 10-minute period. Tell us everything you want to do.
Well, I have a antique car collection, and I get a little emotional, but me and my son used to work on cars together, and we had a couple motorcycles and stuff too. But he had passed away a few years ago, and I still am trying to restore some cars, and I go to car shows just to kind of honor his memory. And I just want to be able to have this collection so that I can kind of continue to do that and to be able to store them inside. So I'm trying to put a garage in so that I can have them inside, because the county has got on to me about having too many cars in front of the house. Because I own, and you see, I gave a list of some of the antique cars that I have. The 6 that are on the list there, those are the ones that I want to store inside. Those are the ones that I prize the most, that I put the most value in. The other ones, I don't care. I don't care anything about them, but I can't store them on the property and have more than 7 vehicles in the front of the house, the way the zoning is, and the code enforcement has got on to me for that before, for having too many cars. Well, these are fully insured, drivable, they're in various stages of restoration, but they're all insured and registered cars. So I don't really see what the problem was, but the county says I can only have 7, so I said, let me store them inside to be compliant. So I applied for the garage to be attached to the house, only just to store them. I'm not trying to work on them there, not trying to paint them or anything like that.
Do you have an existing garage there now?
No, there was a carport on the other side that I had closed in, but it's not a garage.
Okay. Tell us about the garage. How big do you want to make it? How big is it?
What I had planned to do was to have a 30 by 40 enclosed garage space, and I can fit 6 cars in that. When I did the math, right now I'm renting storage units, storage spaces, and I got 10 by 20 for those spaces, and the cars fit well within there, and you can still walk around. So if you multiply that times 6, you got a 30 by 40 area that I could actually store cars in, and it would fit all 6 of them and still have plenty of room to move around.
All right, you got about 4 minutes left. Anything else you want to tell us?
I mean, that's pretty much what I had. We had talked about, when I originally was talking with the zoning about the watershed and all that, and I had offered to even do like water reclamation through the gutter system, to have barrels and then be able to sanitize that water so there's not mosquitoes, to put things in there where I could do water reclamation to use for gardening or anything if it was a watershed issue. But that was never really the issue. The issue was just getting approved for the impervious surface, I guess.
Anything else you want to tell us?
I don't know what else I can say. That's pretty much where I stand on this. I don't know why anybody would be opposed to it, but I guess we're going to hear that in a minute.
Well,
So-
you've got, part of the issue is you're looking at putting 56% impervious surface. That's way, way, way over our limit. So do you
Well,
have an idea on how
If
to
you
handle that?
if you look at the way my property is situated, and there's even a land plat that I had, my property, the front of my property faces 5 other properties. When you look at the way the lines are zoned out, and so it takes up that large a space. I even had to pay for 2 signs to be put on the front of my property for the zoning to be posted, because it was so large across the front. So I was just trying to use that in a way that's practical for me, where I can actually have a place to store my cars, and then a place when I do special events with my family, I can kind of put those cars out, and we can have like a celebration time when around the holidays. So just a drive. I can't put them in the grass. I get excited for putting them in the grass, so I figured if I had a driveway going across, it would really look good.
All right, anything else, Mr. Buff, you'd like to tell us?
That's pretty much it. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. If you would, just have a seat. We'll hear from the opposition at this time. All right, folks, whoever would like to come forward, if that gentleman wants, we'll give him a microphone if he
Just
wants to
let him
stay
do it
right there.
You
Just
know,
give
I've
us-
lived in that neighborhood
Sir,
my
sir,
entire
sir, wait a
life.
minute, hold on, hold on. Give me your name, please, first.
Greg Hicks.
Greg,
Greg
last name?
Hicks.
Hicks. Okay, go right ahead, Mr. Hicks.
You know, we've lived in that house since it was brand new. And you know, that is not a place for a car shop. If you've driven by that house, or you had pictures earlier, you can see all the cars, and I doubt if all of them run. I don't dispute the guy, but this is too much for that neighborhood. It's gonna be a huge garage, and we don't need that in that neighborhood.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us, sir?
That's all I got. Y'all got anything?
All right, let's go to the next speaker then. If you would, the next speaker, come up to the microphone. Ma'am, come on up here to the podium. And he'll take that microphone from you. There you go. Ma'am, give us your name, please, first.
My name is Pat Newton. I'm
Okay,
Ms.
Pat.
Hicks's daughter. We haven't had too much of a problem with the situation over there, and even though there's always a bunch of cars there, we've let it go. He's poured a second driveway, which isn't a problem, but that garage is going to be right up on her fence. And I didn't have too much of a problem, but he came over to my mom's last week and wanted her to sign a paper saying she didn't oppose to it. I told him she wasn't home, and he proceeded to ask me why she disagreed with it. And I said, I didn't say she disagreed. She's not here, but I'm not going to sign it for her. It's her property. He proceeded to tell me that we were either friends or enemies. I said, so if we don't agree with you, we're enemies, yes. I took that as a threat. So that kind of concerns me now, what we're going to be facing now that we're disagreeing with it. But, you know, that's just too much on, she's been there 58 years. She's 84 years old. And that house has been built forward, been both sides, in the back. There's barely any backyard. You know, it's just like, I just feel like it's going to take the neighborhood down more than it's already gone.
For the purpose of the record, could you identify where your mother lives up there and the gentleman
She lives
behind
to
you?
the right where that arrow is.
Where the arrow, and that's your mother's house, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you live close by, or are you in that neighborhood also, ma'am?
No, I'm not in there now,
Okay.
but I'm over there every day helping her out and taking care
Okay.
of her. My brother lives with her.
Okay.
You know, we're there all the time.
Anything else you want to tell us, Pat?
No, I just want that to be marked because I don't know if that's a threat or not. I don't know how to take that either, my friend or enemy. And that was said 3 times, so that really concerned me
Yes, ma'am.
if it doesn't pass what we're facing.
Okay, if you would, have a seat. Our next speaker, please. And again, give us your name.
My name is Randy Hicks.
Okay.
I'm the son to Agatha Hicks that lives at 41 Overbrook Drive. I'm basically here just to represent my mom. Like my sister said, they purchased this house in '62, been there about 56, 58 years, and been neighbor with everyone in the neighborhood that's come and gone. But my main concern, speaking for her behalf today, with this structure being built, would it cause any depreciation value in the neighborhood now? Most of the houses, 3 or 4 of them, are rental houses. And it's not that we don't have compassion on the plaintiff who's petitioned the board to build this garage as a memorial for his son, as we have lost, my sister lost her son at age 22. And it's like, we don't have any compassion for the complainant. But to build a structure this big in front of the house, we feel like it would take away from the property value of the other homeowners, not the renters that's in the neighborhood, but of the homeowners that have investment into their homes.
All right, again, for the purpose of the record, could you tell me where your mother's house is?
It's going to be the house right here adjacent to where the arrow's being
So
pointed.
is it where the arrow is that your mother's house?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
And like I said, you know, it's not that we're trying to be stalling or don't have compassion for the party that's petitioning you, but we're looking toward the property devaluation, if any, with a structure being built for that. And basically, I'm here because the other day, we were speaking to my sister, the party that's petitioning y'all for this device, or this building, came over wanting them to sign a form or something saying they wouldn't be against this structure being built. And after speaking with her, where the party came over said, well, if you're opposing, then you're either my friend or your enemy, or you're by saying you're with me or against me. So I basically came today to be with my sister and them because they kind of shook her up a little bit. You know, you're either my enemy or you're my friend.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us, sir?
That's about it, sir.
If you have a seat, is there another speaker like to come forward? Anybody else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition to this particular case? Tell me your name, please, ma'am.
Agatha Hicks.
Okay, Ms. Hicks, go
I
right
live
ahead.
at 41 Overbrook Drive, been there 56 years. And all of a sudden, you drive around the street, you see this yard just full of cars. And nobody does anything about it. We had to move 2 cars one time that was at the lower end of the house, and now it seems like no one cares. And I feel for him that he lost his son. My daughter lost one, my grandson. And she has his picture on her car. We have a memorial for him every year. And I do not think that this is necessary. It's something that come up to get to build that. The garage would be bigger than my house, or just about it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else wishing to speak? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Ms. Monique Sheffield represents the district, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sheffield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Should I have Dwayne to come up? How are you?
I'm good. I never did make any threatening comments.
It's okay right
So,
now. We're just
yeah.
gonna, okay. Well, thank you for joining us today.
All right.
And while I understand and appreciate that you want to make modifications to your property to honor your son, I'm also concerned about the adverse impact that it would have on the neighborhood. Now, we'll start with the fact that you have 2 driveways now on the property. One was recently poured, I think, April of this year. So what's happened now is between those 2 driveways and the 3rd driveway that you're looking to install, I believe is 20 feet by 60 feet,
To join the 2, yes, ma'am.
right, that you want to run across the front of your home,
Yep.
it increases the impervious surface to 54.9%, which, as the chairman alluded to earlier, is extremely significant. Now, the issue with increasing it to that amount is that it will not allow water to permeate into the earth. So that in and of itself will create an issue. But what I'd like to do, Dave, I would like to call Dave Brayton and just share with us a little bit about how this will impact the property.
Again, Dave Bray with the Stormwater Management Division. Yes, you're correct. Well, anytime you pave or put a structure on a property, it's going to increase the impervious coverage. It generates more runoff because there's an area that doesn't infiltrate, and also the water that does hit that surface is 100% runoff. So for this zoning category, the limit is 35%. And the existing property already is a good bit over that limit, but the amount of proposed impervious is significantly over that limit. So this would be something that we would not encourage. And if, I'm not sure what the board's inclination is, but let's say you decided to go ahead and allow them to do the whole thing, then we would need to have mitigation for all the additional runoff that's being generated on this parcel that's over 35%. So that would be, usually it's a dry well system or some kind of infiltration system to take the runoff and get it to infiltrate into the ground in an infiltration trench or a dry well system. What I would recommend is that we not approve anywhere near that amount, but whatever, or find a way to maybe encourage less impervious. In other words, if we really need to have an area to temporarily park these cars in the front, you make it impervious pavers, or, and I think there's even some paver strips on the northern part of this property line that are already there. paver strips across the front would allow cars to be parked there temporarily, and then particularly if it's only going to be done a couple times a year. So there are some ways to reduce the amount of impervious that he's needing.
Okay, so as a follow-up, what type of mitigation are we looking at for the second driveway?
Just for the driveway itself? Oh,
Right.
I'm not sure, because I don't
Okay.
think, I don't think any numbers were provided for just the driveway.
Okay.
But I believe the existing impervious is already close to 1,000 square feet over, 972 square feet. That's before they even put in
The second
the
driveway?
the existing. I'm not positive that, it says existing impervious. Does that existing impervious include the driveway that you did? Oh, see, that is included in that. So with that additional driveway, the current one that's poured, they're about just under 1,000 square feet over. So we would need enough drywall or enough infiltration area to mitigate that,
Okay,
right?
okay.
Does that answer your question, or is there?
Yeah, it does, thank you, thank you.
Before David leaves, is there any
Yeah.
other questions for Mr. Braden while he's here?
Yeah.
Fred?
You're familiar with a product called Turf Stone or by Belgard? Have you?
Yes, there are several paper products or turf products that can be used, yeah.
Yeah, but the concept of Belgard is that this turf stone, you actually, it kind of creates the appearance of green space while still allowing cars to park.
And we have had opportunity to use that quite often in the river corridor, where you have some severe limitations, way below 35% coverage. And the paved stone or turf stone is something that we would allow.
So there are options available to this gentleman should he
There are
want to
other
pursue an option to
there are
get
some
down
other
closer to that 35% threshold.
That's correct. You good?
By the same token, David, would you agree that it would take a substantial amount of engineering to figure all this out? And
Yeah, and they've got, with the size of the house and the driveway, there's limited room
Yeah,
to
I say
actually
that-
put an infiltration area in. So
I
you might be limited by the area that's available left over, so.
it's a small piece of property, and I say that for the benefit of Mr. Buff. It's going to be a pretty expensive process
Yeah.
to get certified engineers to stamp everything, to go through all the process you have to go through. Any other questions for Mr. Braden? Thank you, David.
Okay, thank
Okay, Monica. No.
I do have a couple of questions regarding the property, regarding the vehicles that are on the property. Are those inoperable?
No, all of them are operable, drivable, insured, and licensed for that address.
And they're all stored at the property?
No,
All
not
the
right
time.
now. I won't be able to store them all. I own 12 vehicles.
Right,
So I
but-
won't be able to store them all there. I have a few at my parents' house that they love to drive, antique
Okay.
cars that they like to drive.
Right, okay, so on Saturday, when I visited the property, there were at least, I think, 4 to 5 vehicles. Are those vehicles typically at your property?
Yeah,
Are those your vehicles?
yes.
Okay, because when we met, you communicated that
Well,
those
there,
were,
there was a
tho-
few cars in the very front that were
Right.
guests.
Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
The older ones, there was a 89 Dodge, there was a 74 Corvette, and an 89 F-150 that were there. Those are the ones that are usually there, yes, those
Okay.
cars.
all right, so we're talking about 4 to 5 cars that you typically store on your property?
Well, I have some off the property, but yeah, I 4 to 5, typically I'd have maybe 7 to 9, typically.
So it's 7
But
to 9
I
plus
don't
the
have that
6?
because they had cited me for having over 7, so I have to keep it down.
Right.
So I've stored some of my
Okay.
vehicles in other places so that I can be compliant.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah,
All right.
and I don't park in the grass anymore,
Okay.
unless it's just I'm doing something or just
Okay.
overnight. Yeah.
You guys have any questions?
I
Anything wanna-
just want to remind everybody that people are home listening to this. We have a parking standard, Mr. Peterson, that requires square footage for how many cars and so forth and so on. So when he refers to being cited, he had too many cars on the property, and that's why code enforcement cited them. They're going to continue to cite you. You can't park on the grass. You have to park on a hardened gravel surface. So
Yes, sir.
it's parking standards that we require, and I certainly think that I'm certainly going to keep that, the standards requirement up as far as just one person is myself concerned. So I just want everybody to understand what we're talking about with parking standards.
And that's why I was building a garage so that I can keep them inside and they're not all in front of the house. And then it would solve a lot of issues. It would solve me getting cited for having them on the property because they're stored inside. As long as it was in an enclosed space, that was okay. When I talked with zoning, that's what they had explained to me.
I have a
Ms. Williams
question.
has a
I have a
comment.
question for John. John, how many cars is he allowed to have?
That's based on the square footage of the house. So, you know, based on the square footage, you're allowed to have one car per 390 square feet of house area. I'm not sure how big this house is. I'm gonna guess the house is 3,000 square feet, maybe?
Yeah, it's close, yeah.
28.
Yeah, it's 28, then the carport's closed in, adds a little more, but yeah, it's 2,800, just shy of that. But 3,000 rounded up, but yeah. So it's a lot larger than any of the other houses on that same street. It's,
Mr. Buff, have you ever considered taking that old carport that's now living quarters and converting it back into a carport?
I have.
And that's something you might want to think
I have.
about. We can't
I
stop.
put a
it.
bunch of my son's belongings in there, and it's just hard to go in there, and I get real emotional when
Okay.
I see the stuff, but I can't. That's
It's
an
a
option.
simple yes or no. You know.
It
it's
is
a
an
simple
option,
question.
yes.
Okay. Ms. Williams, did we answer your questions? I'm sorry to interrupt, John.
That's all right. It's 7 cars is allowed. Own hard
That's what
surface.
the code enforcement told me too. It was 7.
So
If
7.
I had any more than 7, that they would cite me again. So that's why I put
And there'll
some
be
in
7 on the
storage.
property, four of which could be outside.
On side.
Yeah, outside.
Outside.
Well, they told me 7 out in the visibly
So
seen in
4.
the front of the house.
So
So-
7 total, you have 6 classic cars, so, 7 total, 6 classic cars, so that leaves you with 1 vehicle.
No, it doesn't. It just means that I won't be able to put them on the property. I have 12
Well,
vehicles.
1 on the property, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I talked to zoning before, I talked with, I guess his name was Donald, and he had explained that the only way that I could have more than 7 vehicles there at a time would be able to put them in a garage, as long as they were enclosed in a space that they weren't visible from the street, that's the only way that I could have the cars there. So that's why I decided to put the garage in this proposal. I was gonna build one anyway, later, but
Well,
Okay, do you guys have any? Oh,
No, but I
go
think
ahead.
the issue, I think we're getting off the issue. Issue here is you want to build this garage. You've already illegally, by the way, we haven't even talked about that, but you've illegally put that other driveway in. That is not Cobb County compliant.
Right.
So we haven't
That's
even
true.
mentioned that yet.
that's true.
Problem I see here is you got a little over a quarter acre piece of property.
Yeah.
Right at a third. It's too much. You're putting too much in a too small piece of property in my mind.
Yeah.
So either take down the living quarters and put a car inside, or move the car somewhere else. But I'm a little confounded. I don't see where you could put up anything else and do it economically from your land, from your perspective. Certainly not the county's perspective. You're going to hit 54%, and we can't allow it.
I understand.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it back to Mr.
I have a question for Amy
Okay.
from Cobb DOT.
Amy, if you would identify yourself, please.
Certainly. Amy Diaz, Cobb DOT.
And Amy, would you just tell us briefly about the situation with the driveway and residential?
So a second driveway needs to be permitted through Cobb County DOT to make sure it's got good placement and all of that, and that you have sufficient road frontage for it. Depending on the volume on that road, they may have the sufficient frontage and the site distance, but the road needs to carry less than 400 vehicles a day to be considered a low-volume road. I sent some pictures, I don't know if they're part of the record or not, but if you're standing in the driveway and you look in each direction, you have, because of the curve of the road, you have limited distance that you can see a car coming, and that's a concern for us. If it was to go through the Cobb DOT permitting process, we would want either a traffic count to show us that it's okay, that it is low volume, or a site distance profile plan to show us what site distance it is and that it meets our standards. So currently, right now, that, as has been mentioned, it's not an approved driveway, so its liability is on the owner, not on Cobb County.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions, Amy?
Yeah,
Thank-
just one. Amy, if, let's assume this is a lightly traveled road, okay? How close could a garage possibly be to the road without adversely impacting line of sight distance?
As far as the garage goes, you'd have to place, it depends on the radius of the curve. I can't just give a number. I'd have to see the plan and then measure it off that plan. So it can impact around the corner for other vehicles, like you're speaking. Yeah. So,
We're not here to engineer stuff, so let's stick with the issues.
basically, I think the question is, would that garage block other driveways' line of sight? Is that what I'm hearing? Rather than, it doesn't block his line of sight from his driveway, but it could block somebody on the other side of the street that needs to see around the corner.
Yeah, I'm more
So-
concerned with somebody driving down the road.
Yeah.
Or
I am
driving,
too.
Yeah, there's a whole row of trees, there's a whole row of trees there, you can't see even my house when you pull up.
yeah, that is
So,
true.
You wouldn't see the garage, you wouldn't see anything because of that whole row of trees. So,
Yeah, that's the photo looking to that direction, and he is correct that there are trees there.
Any other questions for our DOT
Amy,
representative?
you got a picture? Amy's got
Yeah,
a
this is
picture.
the picture to the right. It's on my phone. Sorry, that's
see all
small.
them trees, you can't see down the street because of all the trees.
That red car is his neighbor, so I'm standing at the new driveway,
Okay, so that's the people, the
looking to
Hicks,
the
is
left,
that-
I'm sorry. And so I also have a picture looking to the right if you'd like to see it. But you can tell that the sight distance is limited.
Very limited right there.
If it's a low-volume road, we have a reduced sight distance requirement because we know there's not a lot of exposure. But if it's not, if it doesn't meet that threshold, if it exceeds it, then the sight distance standard for a two-lane local road is 280 feet. And I don't believe, based on this, that he would have it.
All right, any other questions for, Brian, do you have a question for DOT? Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Amy.
All right, Monique, we're back to you. Yeah, either that or deny it, one or the other.
I actually had called the Georgia
Wait,
Department.
hold on. We'll ask you.
Oh, okay.
Go right ahead, Brian.
I hope I didn't miss this earlier in the presentation, but with the proposed garage and its distance from the front, I know we've got a variance request for the front setback to 17 feet, which is existing. I guess that's the home and that garage or carport on the north side. Is the proposed garage within the 17-foot setback that we're already requesting? Because that's not existing, right? See what I'm saying?
Mr. Peterson?
The plan in your book, I think it's okay. The plan that he put up, it's a different plan. It's actually closer to the road on the
That's what I
plan.
was worried about, is that,
The one he
there
had
may
up
be
is
another
different.
variance that would be needed for
Yeah.
that if it were moving forward. And then the other question, the pictures that we had submitted, what exactly are those that came with your case?
Oh, those were showing how the facade of the house would look, how the garage would look attached to the house with it set back. With it moved forward, the entrance would be different. It would be from the side coming through the driveway. But I was just giving you possible pictures of how it would look from the street with the garage attached to the right side of the house there with the 2 or 3.
So these are just
doors.
pictures of different homes with the
Just-
garage to the right.
just showing you
side.
how I'm wanting to
Okay,
put
I was
the
just confused
stone-
by what all we were looking at there.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I had put it in the comments. I wrote a whole page of comments and said that I was giving examples with the pictures of how I was planning to build the structure.
All right. Okay. Well, there's a lot to unpack here. And here's what I'm willing to propose. Since the second driveway is already existing, I'm willing to approve the second driveway. I will deny the proposed third driveway that will run in front of the property. I'll also deny the variance for the 1,200-foot garage. What I would like for you to give consideration to is extending the second driveway that you had installed, because there's a privacy fence, right, that butts up to the edge of the driveway. So what I would like for you to consider is possibly extending that driveway on the other side of the fence, and you can store two vehicles. Two vehicles should fit on that slab, and two vehicles can be stored on the other side of the fence. And also, while I know it's difficult for you to probably visit the area, the enclosed carport, but you have a built-in two-car garage storage right there on the property. So I would propose that you consider just kind of whenever you feel you can, just go in there and clean that out. But that's what I'm looking to do.
And that's reasonable.
What about you guys?
Considering, I mean, I really didn't think about it.
Sir, we're not in the discussion. It's either yes or no, and we're
Is that something that you feel that you would be able to consider?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fred, you on the mic, get on the mic. Judy, if you're going to talk, get on the mic.
Sure. My comment for the distinguished member of the Board of Zoning Appeals from District 4 is that I just think that her idea is an excellent one and a practical one. It's just something that needs to be worked through with additional planning, given the stormwater considerations. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Judy, Ms. Williams.
I think you came up with a perfect solution. I think the whole thing is we're not trying to punish you. We're just trying to work for the neighbors are entitled to consideration also. So we're trying to come up with the correct way to do it, and I think you might have done that with your proposal, so.
okay.
So the extended driveway, how far does that
Stop.
extend?
We'll ask you a question, then you can make a comment. Until we ask you a question, you really can't say anything. Brian, do you have a comment before I go back to me? Here's my comment. The property is too small. If we're allowing 7 cars on that property, which frankly, I'm surprised. I think that's too many, but that's what the Cobb County standard says, so we have to let them have 7, but no more than 7. And I wouldn't, if it was up to me, I wouldn't approve 7 at all, but I certainly don't think that with the impervious surface, a small piece of property, you can't build another thing on that piece of property. Your best thing is to go to the U-Haul place that Judy just approved an hour ago and start storing those cars up there. Now, Monique, if you want to come back, is that going to require him to come back with a stamped engineering drawing on how he's going to handle the stormwater?
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're going to put this on hold with that recommendation?
Yes, yeah.
To approve it? Okay. Well, let's get that whole motion on the floor. We'll
Okay,
go from there.
let me just write this out. Okay, well, I make a motion that we hold variance case 81 for 30 days, and we will require the applicant to bring in, I don't know, well, he has to bring in something from the engineering department to mitigate the runoff for the impervious surface for the existing driveway.
Yes. And if that doesn't, if we can't do that, then we can come back and tell you to take that second driveway, take it out.
Right.
You understand what the young lady's saying? Just give you a chance to keep that driveway. If you can mitigate that, how
Right.
many square feet that you put out?
Remembered it?
Right, it's 41 and 40 is the only allowable thing, so I can cut the driveway off.
Well, you might have to take the driveway out, but you're gonna have to get an engineer to stamp it and tell us how you're gonna do it. Do you follow what Ms. Monique is saying?
Yes, and what
Okay.
percentage does it have to be if I cut the driveway off? What percentage does it have to be?
We have to
be
take the
compliant?
driveway up. You don't want to cut it off, you just take it out completely.
Well,
Dave,
It shows in the zoning, you can go up to
Hold on.
40.
A little ahead.
972 square feet over the 35%.
Yeah.
Dave was motioning. Let me get him up
Okay.
here. I think he has an answer.
Dave Brady is stormwater management business. The question was, what's the allowable percentage? The allowable percentage is 35%. So if you're gonna comply with the code, it would have to come down to 35%. Well, that's not only the new driveway, that's part of the existing house
Exactly.
or the original driveway. So there's no way to get back to 35% without taking out the new driveway and additional area. So the allowable is 35, not 40. So I just wanted to clarify that. So let's say he cut, I think the question was that it looks like we've approved a couple here today at just under 40%, which that's your prerogative. So if you were to do that, you would have to take out about
72.
972 square, yeah, maybe close to 1,000 square feet. So, which is doable, but we would need to see a plan for that, and then an infiltration design to show how you're going to mitigate that additional 5%.
So David, that's where the 30 days would come in.
That's right.
Right.
And he may decide that he can't afford to do that. He may withdraw the application. So I think we're being more than fair with the applicant. All right, buddy, let's get it on the floor.
Okay, I make a motion to hold variance case V81 for 30 days to allow the applicant an opportunity to consult with an engineer and produce a proposal from the engineer for the mitigation for existing driveway number 2.
Got a motion, do I have a second to that? Second for discussion, any comments? I think this is about as fair as we can do it. I think he's gonna have to understand, once he sits down with an outside engineer, realizes he probably can't do half of this, so or if he can do it, it's gonna be so expensive. But understand this, we're not giving you the garage, so we're not gonna do the garage. That's gone already. So we're just trying to deal with what's existing there. You've got a small piece of property, you've put a lot of runoff on it, and we're trying to help you with that. And I think we're protecting and helping the neighbors at the same time. So I've got a motion, I've got a second, I have made a comment. Brian, do you want to anybody else want to make a comment? Let's call for the vote, yes, no, or go home. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to approve that motion to hold this case for 30 days until our next scheduled meeting, and it's a 5-0 vote. Thank you, folks, for coming, and thank you for Mr. Buff. Thank you, sir. John, what else do we have to do today?
That completes your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I've got a couple of house cleaning things to do, is approve the minutes from September the 9th and also August the 14th.
Dwayne? Wait, sorry.
John, you have a comment? Judy? Okay, just hold on. Judy, let's get this done. Make a motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry.
September the 9th and August the 14th.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, I've got a motion, I got a second.
I'll
All in
second.
favor, signify by voting. Let's get that out of the way. Then we've got a little guy in a red shirt who's the U-Haul guy that Judy has snuck in here. Stand up, sir. I want to tell you, see this lady up here? She approved your thing because you didn't show up. She was nice to you.
I'm so sorry, I was told 1:30 and
Well,
I just took over and found out about it.
That's okay.
Okay.
We went ahead, and there's nothing wrong with it. We went ahead and approved it, so you're fine.
so the next time she moves, you get her 3 trucks, not 2.
Quit saying that.
Okay, all right,
Thank
so
you.
we've taken care of him. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls in our listening and viewing audience, I'd like to remind you that Arbitron comes out next month. We are still the #1 rated show on Channel 23. We're going to the highlights of this towards the end of this week, and we'd appreciate if you'd all tune in next week or next month. Thank you.